Why did Jesus call himself the Son of Man again and again? It sounds humble, almost ordinary. But in Daniel 7, this figure comes with the clouds of heaven, receives authority over every nation, and rules forever. So, what was Jesus really claiming? By the end of this video, that title will sound completely different. My name is the Prophet 33, and I bring you the Word of God. The reason I wear a mask is because I am persecuted in my country for my faith. This mask protects my life. Let's continue. The answer begins in the Hebrew scriptures, where Son of Man first sounds completely ordinary, and then becomes the central figure in one of the most extraordinary visions in the Bible. In Hebrew, the phrase is Ben Adam. In the Aramaic of Daniel, it is Bar Anash. Both expressions can simply refer to a human being, a mortal person, a member of humanity. The word son in biblical language does not always describe a literal biological relationship. A son of wickedness is a wicked person. A son of strength is someone characterized by strength. In the same way, a son of man can simply mean someone who is human. That is how the expression often functions in the book of Ezekiel. Ezekiel sees the glory of God: fire, living creatures, wheels, and a throne above them. The vision overwhelms him, and he falls face down. Then God says, "Son of man, stand up on your feet, and I will speak to you." The contrast is clear. God is upon the throne. Ezekiel is in the dust. God speaks. Ezekiel listens. God sends. Ezekiel obeys. Throughout the book, God calls him Son of Man again and again. Ezekiel may receive heavenly visions and speak with divine authority, but he remains a mortal messenger. He carries the word of God. He is not its source. So when Jewish listeners heard the words Son of Man, they would not automatically have heard an official title for the Messiah. The phrase could sound ordinary, humble, and even weak. That may help explain why Jesus chose it. If he had constantly announced, "I am the Messiah," people could have filled that title with their own expectations. Some wanted a military liberator. Some expected an immediate political revolution. Some dreamed of a king who would defeat Rome with greater force. The Son of Man was less obvious. It could pass through a conversation like a simple reference to a human being. Yet to someone who knew the book of Daniel, it could open the door to an entirely different vision. In Ezekiel, Son of Man places a prophet in the dust. In Daniel, one like a son of man is brought before the throne of heaven. Daniel chapter 7 begins with a nightmare. The prophet sees a stormy sea, and 4 terrifying beasts rise from it. The first resembles a lion with eagle's wings. The second resembles a bear with flesh between its teeth. The third resembles a leopard with 4 wings and 4 heads. The fourth is so violent and unnatural that Daniel cannot compare it with any known animal. It crushes, devours, and tramples whatever remains. Later, Daniel is told that these beasts represent kings and kingdoms. That is the first great shock of the vision. From the ground, empires look magnificent. They build cities, armies, roads, palaces, and monuments. Their rulers call themselves glorious, civilized, and permanent. But when heaven reveals their character, they look like predators. The imagery reaches all the way back to Genesis. Human beings were created in the image of God and commanded to rule over the animals. But in Daniel's vision, the rulers have become the animals. Human authority has turned beastly. Instead of protecting life, these kingdoms consume it. Instead of reflecting the justice of God, they rule through fear. Instead of receiving authority as a responsibility, they seize power as prey. For Jewish people living beneath foreign empires, this was not abstract symbolism. Assyria had destroyed the northern kingdom. Babylon had burned Jerusalem and the temple. Persia, Greece, and later Rome would govern the land of Israel. Each empire claimed order and greatness, yet each demanded submission, collected tribute, and maintained control through force. Daniel's vision says that their power is real but temporary. The scene suddenly moves from the sea to the court of heaven. The Ancient of Days takes his seat. His throne burns with fire. The court is seated and the books are opened. The boasting beast is judged. Its authorities removed. The empire that looked unstoppable on earth becomes powerless before the throne of God. But destroying one beast is not enough. Human history repeatedly replaces one violent kingdom with another. One empire falls, and another rises from the same chaotic sea. So who should rule after the beasts? Daniel sees the answer. Not a larger beast, not a more terrifying monster, someone who finally looks human. Daniel writes that he saw one like a son of man coming with the clouds of heaven. The contrast could not be stronger. The beasts rise from the chaotic sea below. The human figure comes with the clouds of heaven above. The beasts seize and devour. The Son of Man approaches the Ancient of Days and receives. He is given authority, glory, and sovereign power. Every nation and language comes under his rule, and his kingdom will never be destroyed. This is not merely an ordinary man standing beside four unusual animals. In the Hebrew scriptures, the clouds are repeatedly connected with the presence and action of God. God appears in the cloud at Sinai. His glory fills the tabernacle and temple. The Psalms describe him as riding upon the clouds. Yet Daniel sees a figure who looks human, moving within this heavenly imagery. He is distinct from the Ancient of Days. He approaches God and receives authority from him. But the authority he receives is astonishing. Universal rule and an everlasting kingdom. This is why Son of Man cannot be reduced to Jesus was saying he is human. The humanity of Daniel's figure matters deeply, but it is humanity exalted, vindicated, and entrusted with God's kingdom. The vision then becomes even more mysterious. The human figure receives the kingdom, but when the angel explains the vision, he says that the holy people of the Most High will receive it. So is the Son of Man one person or an entire people? The biblical answer may be both. A king can represent his kingdom. David stood against Goliath as one man, but the victory of one became the victory of Israel. The high priest entered God's presence as an individual, but he carried the names of the tribes upon him. One representative could carry the identity and destiny of many. In the same way, Daniel's human figure can be one ruler who represents the suffering people of God. He receives the kingdom, and they share in his victory. Not every Jewish reader interpreted this vision in exactly the same way. Some understood the figure collectively as Israel or the faithful saints. Others saw an angelic representative. Some Jewish writings around the New Testament period interpreted Daniel's figure as an individual, exalted and even messianic deliverer. So, Son of Man was not a simple label with one definition known by every Jew. It was a scriptural mystery filled with possibilities, a human figure, a representative of God's people, a heavenly ruler, a judge of beastly kingdoms, the receiver of an everlasting kingdom. Jesus did not merely repeat one popular definition. Through his life, he showed which parts of this vision he was applying to himself. Jesus uses Son of Man in three surprising ways. First, he uses it when exercising authority in the present. A paralyzed man is lowered through a roof and placed before him. Everyone expects a healing. Instead, Jesus begins by saying that the man's sins are forgiven. The teachers of the law immediately recognize the problem. Who can forgive sins but God alone? Jesus then heals the man as visible confirmation of the invisible claim, and says that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins. Notice the words, authority on earth. Daniel saw the human figure receive authority in the heavenly court. Jesus says that the authority of the Son of Man is already operating within the earthly world. But he uses that authority differently from the beasts. The beasts crush human bodies. Jesus restores one. The beasts accuse and dominate. Jesus forgives. His power does not make him less human. It reveals what human authority under God was always meant to be. Jesus also declares that the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath. The Sabbath belonged to the creation order and the covenant life of Israel. To claim lordship over it was not a minor statement in a debate over religious customs. Jesus was saying that he possessed the authority to reveal the Sabbath's true purpose: rest, freedom, mercy, and restoration under the reign of God. But then, Jesus uses the title in a way that confuses his disciples. The Son of Man must suffer. After Peter confesses that Jesus is the Messiah, Jesus immediately explains that the Son of Man will be rejected, killed, and raised again. Peter rebukes him. He can imagine a glorious Messiah. He can imagine the human figure receiving Daniel's kingdom. What he cannot imagine is that this king would first be handed over to the beasts. Daniel 7 does not explicitly say that the Son of Man will be crucified and rise after 3 days, but it does show the holy people suffering beneath beastly kingdoms before they are vindicated and receive the kingdom. Jesus enters that pattern personally. He does not remain safely separated from the suffering of his people. Their conflict becomes his conflict. Their humiliation becomes his humiliation. The representative enters the destiny of those he represents. Jesus connects this suffering with service. His disciples argue about greatness and compete for positions in the coming kingdom. Jesus tells them that Gentile rulers lord it over their subjects, but then draws a line between the kingdoms of the beasts and his own community. Not so with you. Greatness in his kingdom is measured by service. Then he explains why. The Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. That statement is astonishing beside Daniel 7. Daniel sees the nations serving the Son of Man. Jesus says the Son of Man first comes to serve them. The king worthy of universal allegiance is the king who gives his own life. Beastly rulers preserve their thrones by sacrificing others. Jesus receives his kingdom by sacrificing himself. He will not defeat the beasts by becoming the greatest beast of all. He will allow their violence to fall upon him without allowing their character to enter him. They can mock him, wound him, and kill him. They cannot make him unfaithful. And if he rises from death, then the beasts have exhausted their greatest weapon. All of this leads to the night of Jesus' trial. His disciples have fled. Witnesses accuse him. He stands bound before the high priest with no army, no throne, and no visible sign of heavenly glory. The high priest asks him directly, "Are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One?" Jesus answers, "I am." But he does not stop there. He says that they will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming with the clouds of heaven. In one sentence, Jesus combines two major passages from the Hebrew Scriptures. Seated at the right hand points to Psalm 110, where David's Lord is invited to share the place of royal authority beside God. Coming with the clouds of heaven points directly to Daniel 7. This is the moment when Jesus removes the veil from the title. The Son of Man who forgave sins is Daniel's heavenly human figure. The Son of Man who came to serve is the ruler who will receive the nations. The Son of Man who will be killed is the one who will be vindicated, enthroned, and given the everlasting kingdom. The courtroom is suddenly reversed. The high priest appears to be the judge. Jesus appears to be the accused. But Jesus declares that this arrangement is temporary. The prisoner will sit at the right hand of power. The judges will see him vindicated. The earthly court will answer to the heavenly court. That is why the response is so severe. The high priest tears his clothes. The council condemns Jesus. They spit on him, blindfold him, and strike him. The scene appears to disprove his claim. How can this humiliated man be the ruler of Daniel 7? How can someone covered in spit come with the clouds? How can a condemned prisoner judge kingdoms? But this is the meaning Jesus has been building all along. The true human king does not avoid the suffering created by beastly power. He enters it. The religious authorities protect their position. The Roman governor protects political stability. The soldiers turn suffering into entertainment. The crowd demands blood. Every form of corrupted human power gathers around Jesus, and he refuses to become like any of them. The beasts reveal what they are by what they do to the Son of Man. The Son of Man reveals who he is by how he responds to them. They preserve power through fear. He remains faithful through death. They issue a verdict of guilt. The resurrection becomes God's verdict of vindication. They place him beneath the earth. God raises him. They treat him as a false king. He is enthroned as the true one. The resurrection is not only Jesus returning to life, it is the heavenly court overturning the decision of the earthly court. The condemned man is revealed as the chosen king. The victim of the beasts is revealed as their judge. This is why Son of Man was not Jesus' smallest claim. At the moment when he appeared weakest, it became his boldest. I want to take a moment to thank everyone who has already become a channel member through YouTube memberships. Your support truly helps me continue creating this content and building a spiritually meaningful community. If you feel connected and would like to support the vision, you can join by clicking the link in the description. It's simple, secure, and handled directly by YouTube. Thank you for being part of this journey. There is one final layer to the title. Daniel's contrast between beasts and a human figure returns us to the beginning of the Bible. Humanity was created in the image of God and called to rule beneath his authority. Human beings were supposed to represent the character of their Creator within the world, but human rule became corrupted. Kings became predators. Empires became monsters. People created in God's image began treating other people as prey. Daniel's beasts reveal humanity distorted by power. The Son of Man reveals humanity restored. This does not mean that the words Son of Man automatically mean the second Adam. The phrase itself can simply mean a human being, but the larger biblical connection is powerful. Adam reaches for authority on his own terms. The Son of Man receives authority from the Ancient of Days. Adam fails in temptation. Jesus remains faithful. Human rulers take life to preserve themselves. Jesus gives his life to rescue others. The beasts appear powerful but lose their kingdoms. The Son of Man appears defeated but receives a kingdom that will never pass away. Jesus is not less human because he refuses the ways of the beasts. He is more fully human. Sin, cruelty, and domination are often excused as only human. Daniel tells a different story. When humanity rejects God's image and rule, it becomes less human, not more. Jesus shows what humanity was created to be: faithful to God, merciful toward the weak, uncorrupted by authority, willing to serve, obedient even through suffering, victorious over death. This also means that following the Son of Man is more than agreeing with a title. His followers cannot confess the human king while copying the methods of the beasts. They cannot seek greatness through domination. They cannot protect religious power by crushing people. They cannot speak about God's kingdom while ruling through fear. Jesus tells his disciples, "Not so with you." The kingdom of the Son of Man must be seen in the kind of humanity his people display. Service instead of domination, mercy instead of cruelty, faithfulness instead of fear. So why did Jesus call himself the Son of Man more than any other title? Because it told his entire story. It could express genuine human weakness, like Ezekiel standing in the dust. It pointed to Daniel's human figure coming with the clouds. It identified Jesus with the suffering people of God. It revealed his authority to forgive, restore, and judge. It explained why he would serve, suffer, and give his life. And give. And it promised that the rejected man would be vindicated and receive the everlasting kingdom. Son of Man was not Jesus lowering his identity. It was Jesus revealing the kind of king he had come to be, not another beast competing for control. The true human being among the beasts, the servant worthy to rule, the prisoner who would become the judge, the man rejected by earthly power and crowned by heaven. Jesus' most misunderstood title was also his boldest claim. And once you see that, his words can never sound ordinary again. Subscribe, because there are still many things in the words of Jesus that only make sense when we hear them through Jewish ears. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching and being part of this journey with me. Now I invite you to check out this recommended video right here. And if you're hungry for more eye-opening content, hit the subscribe button, and let's keep learning together.